I'm having one fight with Monte and Pharaoh, and I'm gonna put him in a crossface, and he's gonna go down right now. Yeah.
It's the most bull opinion I ever heard.
That's
Khan said. That's.
Ooh, Tony.
All right, welcome back to Long Island's #1 pro wrestling broadcast, Monte and Pharaoh, seen only here out of Indie Music TV. So, Pharaoh, while you were having a smoke, I just found out that Brian Pillman's Jr. and the ex-wife of Brian Pillman, Melanie Pillman, passed away. Oh. Melanie Pillman is a name familiar to wrestling fans as the wife to the late Brian Pillman. She was the forefront of the infamous Pillman's Got a Gun angle with Steve Austin. Melanie was awkwardly interviewed live on Monday Night Raw after Brian's death, sparking discussion over whether the company was exploiting the tragic passing. Thoughts on the passing of Miss Pillman?
Any idea what she passed from? She seems kind of young.
Well, she's not young, but she had many drug problems for sure. She was a beautiful lady.
Yeah.
At some point, and well, I don't mean it like that, dude. What are you laughing about?
I clearly took it that way.
Obviously,
I think that's kind of.
I mean, we all get a little weathered as we get older.
Weathered?
Yeah, and if you're doing...
There's an umbrella right behind me. I'm so weathered.
You know, but if you remember the Dark Side of the Ring with Pillman Jr., and actually I think the daughters too, there was a little bit of hatred going on for Mom at some point.
Wow. I'm not sure what to think about it. This is what happens when I take a smoke break. This is what, maybe I shouldn't take smoke breaks. This is not good. I don't know what to think about it. I mean, rest in peace, obviously. I bet it wasn't so easy being married to a wrestler in the first place. And Brian Pillman was a very intense guy, so I'm sure she.
Well, you know,
very interesting.
You know
life,
the story.
I'm sure.
He had he had a child, Pillman, with another lady.
Right.
He met Melanie, from what I understand, at a strip bar.
Okay.
He left his wife.
As I said, an interesting life.
Melanie forced Pillman to go for sole custody, which he won because I believe the first wife might have had, and again, don't hold me exactly the story, mental issues.
Right.
And eventually the ex-wife offed herself.
Wow.
And the daughter of the first wife, Pillman's daughter, hated Melanie for a very long time.
Ooh.
And then obviously after Brian Pillman passed, Melanie had many drug problems, and Brian Pillman Jr. had to endure the drug problems of his mother.
Wow. I wonder how Brian Pillman Jr. is feeling. Probably not too good.
Well, I saw a tweet where he said, thank you, Mom, for bringing me in this world. It didn't seem like super distraught, and to be honest with you, I think if my mom, which is gone, had passed away, and I wouldn't be the first thing to go to Twitter.
I don't think you'd go anywhere near Twitter.
Or Facebook.
Or anything. But this is how everybody does things nowadays, just not us. Maybe there's some others like us, I hope.
Go Celtics. These Boston fans are getting a little wild, huh?
Yeah, well, it's been a good couple of decades for them. It's a little role reversal. It's a kind of frustrating.
Do you hate Boston?
No, I don't. I've been to Boston. Boston's beautiful.
You're a liar.
No, I have been to Boston.
Listen, dude.
And they didn't even ask me to leave.
Dude, you are anti-Boston.
Oh, you mean like their sports team?
Yes,
of course
not Boston.
I thought you meant the city. The city's beautiful. I loved it. Fenway Park is
awesome. I'm talking about the sports team.
No, I can't stand them. They make me sick and want to vomit.
The Bruins.
I hate them. Going all the way back to Bobby Orr. Driving my poor Rangers crazy. Oh, Rangers! Woohoo! Anyway,
Red Sox.
I can't stand them. Nothing
Celtics.
but respect for, by the way, these teams you're naming. Though.
Celtics.
Can't stand them.
And probably the worst of them all.
Don't say the New England Patriots.
The worst of
I
all.
hate them.
Oh,
what a
my
bunch
God.
of Johnny-come-latelys.
I'll tell you what.
Dad, when you've been around as long as we are, you know, the Patriots, blech. I remember when they were the worst team in the division for decades.
A man in a wig
Man in a wig.
was detained after throwing a piece of cake at the Mona Lisa. A man who seems to have been disguised as an old woman in a wheelchair threw a piece of cake at the Mona Lisa in Paris. Video posted on social media shows security guards at the what museum is that?
Where is
Lviv? I don't
this?
even know how to pronounce that.
Lviv.
Escorting a man away Sunday as he's
Louvre.
Someone correct us.
It's a
As he
museum.
spoke French about the planet.
Can I?
Go ahead.
Think of the earth. There are people who are destroying the earth. Think about it. I just tell you, think of the earth. That's why I did this. Why does this French guy sound Russian?
He says, according to the Associated Press. Another video showed someone cleaning the cake off the glass, protecting the Mona Lisa, as onlookers held their phone to film the incident aftermath.
Don't stop the guy.
The 36-year-old man was detained and sent to the psychiatric unit,
Gee, you
according to AP.
I wonder why.
The original Mona Lisa was painted by Leonardo da Vinci between 1503 and 1519. The oil painting hangs in
Louvre.
largest room, according to the museum's website. This isn't the first time the iconic painting
No, it's not.
has run into trouble.
It's not.
The protective glass was put up there so it wasn't damaged by an acid attack in
During
the
the
50s.
1950s, somebody threw acid on
So
the Mona
we talk
Lisa.
about a lot of bad
She
things.
tripped
but
for
you,
weeks.
You found this very funny.
I
That
thought
someone
this-
threw cake
I
at
think
the
that
picture.
this is, well, you know why I find it funny? Because Spidey alerted to me in the pre-show that it had a glass protective. And I thought to myself, yeah, it should. The damn thing's worth $1 billion. I find it hilarious that somebody sneaks in a wheelchair dressed as a woman with a wig on and throws cake. What is this, the Three Stooges? That is hilarious. What a dip. That's just, to me, that's funny. Think of the earth. Mike, let me ask you a question. Are you going to think of the earth now? Did they get their point across? They were trying to be very deep. Did you receive their message? Think of the earth.
I did.
You know, this
I
is
did.
what we do to the earth. I'm buying the wig and everything. Is this a work or a shoot? This whole thing.
All right, guys. Well, it finally happened. What
Oh.
I was not looking forward to, but you know what? I guess you just can't stop what eventually is going to happen. Your man, Phil Brooks,
my man again.
has now become
Oy.
the new AEW champion over his win on Sunday over Hangman. Do they call him Hangman or do they call him Cowboy now?
He's both, I guess.
Whatever.
Adam-
Hangman Page.
Yeah.
Did you flip out, Mr. CM Punk lover guy?
How did I go back to being a CM Punk
I don't
lover
know.
guy?
I just
We've
like
been
to play with you.
destroying him for like months now.
Were you
he
ha-
was one
were
of
you
my
act-
all-time
I know he was.
favorites.
He was 1 year old.
He still is. He's still got his little
So
section.
you were
where I
very were you
love him.
happy? Like, you know what? I'm so glad.
Honestly, I am happy for him, and I'm happy that they did the right thing because he's going to bring in more ratings than Hangman Adam Page. How many? I don't know. Am I pessimistic about it? Yes, I am. Let's see what happens.
Well, I will tell you this. The first
I still
thing,
think it's a good move.
The first thing I thought was, this is perfect, right? It's put up a shut-up time.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
They spent all this money on this guy.
Exactly.
He's here. You want to
Right.
be this next big thing.
Yep. Yep.
Obviously, the ratings have been stagnant all the way from Jericho
Right.
through Moxley,
Right.
through Hangman Page. I'm sorry, what's his name? The guy who wrestles dolls. Then
Kenny Omega.
Kenny Omega, Hangman Page.
The guy who wrestles.
And
dolls.
now you said, you know what? This is the guy that's going to get us over the hump. And we're going to, we're dedicating this show to CM Punk because we're going to go through some of the things that CM Punk says, and we want you guys to weigh in. We're going to weigh in, and, let's see what's going to come about, right?
Sure.
So, all right.
Hit it.
So, what does this mean, Pharaoh, for AEW? CM Punk is now their champion. What do you foresee the future being for AEW as Phil is holding on to their very prestigious title?
Well, because that Punk is a purist and believes in his way of a certain kind of approach to booking. If they do it with his input and his approval, I have a feeling that from a purist standpoint, it's going to be good. And he's going to have some excellent opponents, and they're going to have some great matches, and they'll have good promos, and everything will be fine. I don't think that it's going to turn it from a 1 or a 965,000 rating into a 2. It all depends on how good they are with the storylines and how effectively they can pull them off. Maybe they'll get up to a 1-4, maybe a 1-5 if things are going really well. But I don't see this turning into, okay, putting the strap on a 40-something-year-old CM Punk is going to now elevate us to the point where Hogan cut the NWO promo and the other company was beating Vince. No, don't see it.
Look, we got to take WWE out of this cage, out of this
Impossible.
whole equation. You have to take it out of the equation.
Won't do it.
Why?
Because the wrestling landscape commands that you pay attention to the New York Yankees, no matter what team or what place you root for.
The New York Yankees are no longer the New York Yankees. They're beyond that. It's not. It's not a wrestling company anymore. Right. It is a
it's an entertainment
the WWE.
Brand. We know that
fights against network television,
NFL,
against NBA, NFL,
NHL
right?
playoffs, MLB.
AEW is
not fighting against
a wrestling company.
It is.
I would say if you're going to really, how can AEW separate themselves further from the impacts? And this is kind of a joke in a way, but impacts the MLWs and the NWAs. How could they get more distance?
In my mind, they're already, like you said, it is a bit of a joke. They're already way separated from that. I consider AEW the most serious second company since WCW's demise.
Who would be the third? New Japan?
You mean currently in the landscape of the world?
Take WWE out of it.
Honestly, okay. I would love to see the numbers because something tells me that New Japan draws on a more successful level than AEW.
Well, it's clear to me
Tokyo Dome is no joke.
I don't think that's even...
Wrestle Kingdom is no joke.
I respect what you're saying, but I can't imagine that being possible with the fact that New Japan now is working a co-show with AEW.
Right, they're doing that, but do you realize how much prying? I don't know if you're familiar with the way...
No, I'm not.
Okay, the New Japan ownership is very proud and won't do crap with you if they think there's nothing in it for them. They actually are the Japan Vince.
Well, that's my point. They need AEW to help them.
They're only doing it because they would like to get a little more exposure here in America.
Gotcha.
They are so set in Japan, and they don't really do so bad when they try to go to other places.
Okay.
I actually think that in my mind, New Japan is the second biggest company in the world.
CM Punk wins the title. Mm-hmm. All's well in the world. Everybody's happy.
Yeah.
And then they have a media scrum with Tony Khan. So I'm going to read a few things from there, and I need you to weigh in on it.
Okay.
Now, again, it's called a media scrum.
Okay.
I don't want to call it a press conference because I don't think it's a press conference. I think it would be more of like you and me and some other wrestling websites in there just asking questions, right? There's no hardcore reporters.
By the way, it's interesting to tie in further to hammer home. New Japan does have some influence on American wrestling. That press conference type thing you see on AEW is copy for copy the way New Japan's been doing it for years. They make it feel like you're at an actual after-game interview with the press. That New Japan's been doing that for years. So they basically took that from New Japan.
So, by the way, I think
it's cool.
And I actually think it's kind of cool.
I think it's very cool.
It gives you the sport feel.
Very cool.
So I'm going to read this to you, and I need you to weigh in. Punk says his 7 years out of the ring weren't wasted, but his years in the WWE were wasted. And he reached the potential he could have with the limitations that the WWE puts on wrestlers. And in AWA, there are no limits put on wrestlers.
Sure.
Punk says he chipped a tooth during the match. Punk was then asked, all right, so we'll stop there. Yeah. Let's stop there.
Yeah, please stop there because I'm getting sick, okay? Let me jump on this. His 7 years out of the ring weren't wasted. Okay, number one, Phil, when you were gone for 7 years, your fans missed you. You were wasting their emotions for 7 years. They were waiting and waiting and waiting for you. And you're basically like, which I don't think is very cool. And then he reached, as far as his potential he could have had with the limitations. Let's hammer home some limitations of what it was like for poor CM Punk to be working for Vince McMahon and the biggest company in the world when it comes to professional wrestling entertainment. Okay, 434-day reign as the world champion. Then he gets upset because he's not in the main event, supposedly. Well, if anybody can remember, CM Punk gets to fight at WrestleMania, The Undertaker, in one of the 5 best Undertaker WrestleMania matches in his streak. Punk is part of this. How the hell is a 434-day reign, which is 25 years in the making as far as the longest reign at that time, how is that, and fighting The Undertaker at WrestleMania in one of the best matches Taker ever had, and he said it himself, how is this a waste? Your entire WWE career is why most of us know you. How bitter can you be? Okay, you didn't get to beat Triple H. We all know you should have probably done that. You know, you talk about moving on. Didn't he tell Tony to move on? But we'll be getting to that too.
We'll get to that.
I mean, if anybody should not be saying move on, it's Phil. Phil can't move on. And I don't get it at all. So I completely I want to puke hearing this.
The big point of this whole thing is CM Punk is now cashing his checks.
Of course.
And guess what? Mm-hmm. If he doesn't succeed, who's he going to? Is he going to take ownership?
He's going to blame somebody. That's what he does.
Because that's his MO.
That's his MO.
He's fine. Look.
Hey, and by the way, this opinion, Mike, is from us. Is straight edge. I just wanted to throw that in.
That's fair.
That's a straight edge opinion. That is his MO. He's never happy.
Listen, I like the fact that he's bringing it now. Mm-hmm. Him and Tony are all in. Like, you couldn't use the word better all in. They've laid their cards now. This is the only guy, right? This is the only guy they feel can do, and he's saying he's going to get the job done. Mm-hmm. And again, I'm not.
They better let him have a lot of input. So this way it is on him.
Do you think
I want them to give him complete input so he can now blame himself.
Do you think you really think it's a good idea that to let a wrestler run his own angles?
It depends on the wrestler and the timing and the moment. In general, I would say absolutely
not. Well, you keep on saying that,
hey, I would Punk. Say absolutely not. But I never would have told Hulk Hogan during 1985, 86, 87, 88. I never would have told Hulk Hogan, shut up and sit in the corner. We got this. You do what we tell you. That would have been really dumb. Because then I would be Vern Gagne.
Let me ask you something. What limitations did the WWE put on?
I don't think any. I think at the end of the day, what I would respect a lot more is if CM Punk got on his Twitter or got on the microphone and said, here's my real beef. Triple H is a Vince McMahon is a I didn't agree with the way they booked me, but I wasn't suppressed. I was well paid, and now everybody knows who the I am. This doesn't change the fact that I think, can't you just do that? But you know what? He's smart the way he does this. He complains every day, and he gets eyes on him, and everybody. It's week after week with this soapbox guy.
There's a GIF out there. I'm glad you brought Triple H out.
Yeah.
There's a GIF out there that says, childhood is when you idolize CM Punk. Adulthood is when you realize Triple H made more sense.
Triple H is the man.
Triple H did not like Phil Brooks.
That's right.
He didn't like the way Phil Brooks did business.
He didn't like Jericho.
Didn't like Jericho.
He doesn't like smaller guys.
But I don't forget this.
It's part of it, though.
You think that's part of the deal?
We cannot ignore that. It's definitely part of it. I mean,
wow, I didn't think about it that way.
Triple H does not like certain guys, and they usually seem to be smaller. Don't you remember when Jericho first got here? People forget this. Vince made him wear platform shoes. He had like high heels almost, if you took a look, like kiss boots.
Here's the thing. Phil's angry with the WWE for a few things. And probably the biggest thing had to be he was so upset over the fact that he had to drop the strap to Dwayne Johnson and not get his WrestleMania moment. But this is where Phil makes his mistakes. This was in the works for a year. Somewhere in Phil's mind, he thought he was good enough to stop that program from happening.
Right.
And when it didn't happen, what did he do? He sat there and he cried.
Right.
And he's doing the same thing now. He asked CM Punk about his Twitter war with Eric Bischoff.
Oh, right. Eric Bischoff.
Tony
Okay.
Khan responded to this. Khan responded with a series of curses to Bischoff's claim that Punk has been a financial flop. Tony Khan has responded with a colorful rant. Eric Bischoff claims that CM Punk has been the biggest financial flop in the history of wrestling. That opinion, it's the most bull opinion I've ever heard.
That's
Khan said, that's
oh, tell me.
MJF had something that some are considering the greatest pro wrestling promo in the history of pro wrestling promos.
It was blistering.
Pharaoh,
I loved it.
weigh in, brother.
I thought it was fantastic. Well, folks, for you folks at home, it started earlier in the other day where you try to reach me in so many different ways.
I did.
Yeah, like a text pops up on my phone. I'm at work. I see this thing on my ear. I'm like, I'm at work? I'm like, what is going on? Call me. I was busy, folks. Anyway, he's telling me about this amazing promo, and I thought to myself, wow, if Mike got into it, I guess this must have been pretty damn good. Go home, check it out. Holy crap. As far as emotion go, and as far as the rush I got out of it, that was one of the best damn things I've ever seen, you know? And when I came in to talk to you earlier today here at the studio, I was like, I think that might be the best damn pipe bomb type promo I've ever seen. That was fantastic. Exquisitely done. Loved it. What'd you think?
So, and I want the fans to weigh in on this too. My thought process was great. Could have been the greatest promo ever, but then I started to evaluate, right? Because I felt like, you know what? To be fair, in my opinion, my whole thought process is get MJF to the WWE, right? That's what I'm thinking. And then I'm thinking to myself, but if he goes there, you're not going to get the guy that you're all falling in love with, right?
Watered down. He'll be watered down.
And so maybe that's not what you're looking for.
Right.
And then I thought to myself, is MJF, look, obviously younger, trying to make a name for himself, very smart, quick-witted. But is he really better at promos than Seth Rollins, Edge, The Miz, Roman Reigns? Just, again, he has an unfair advantage. He's on a show where he can drop every curse word, anything.
Right.
And as a WWE wrestler, you're handicapped, right? You can't do some of the stuff.
Sure.
We discuss, I'm going to let you take over from here, but... at WrestleMania, they were talking about having Lesnar and Reigns bleed. And Nick Khan told Vince, you can't do this.
Right.
We've done a lot of work getting us to this point.
Right.
We're a billion-dollar company.
Right.
We don't want to be known as a wrestling company, those guys who bleed.
Right.
Right?
They're going away from that. Right.
They've been away for it for a long time.
It's one of those things that they have gone away from.
So, after I say all this, is this the greatest promo of all time?
No, it can't be the greatest promo of all time because there's so many that are, historically impactful. And this being, the fact that it just happened, history's going to, time is going to judge where it sits. But I thought it was fantastic. One way or the other, I thought it was fantastic. It gave me a rush I haven't felt in a very long time as far as when someone talks. Now, if he's like the names you brought up, like, those names you threw at me from the current WWE roster, the MJF in AEW is better than a lot of them, but again, that's because he's free. He's not crutched with the approach that WWE uses, the PG-13 type approach. But is MJF just as great a talker, if not better, than all these guys you're naming? Yeah, but that's because he's in that state. If he does come to the WWE, and he will be watered down, the only way he can pull it off is as long as they're not embarrassing him with the scripts, he can still pull it off because he has great conviction, great tonality. His aura reeks of F you, hate me, I'm an ass. So he could find ways where the F-bombs become other things just as effectively said.
In my heart of hearts, I feel that MJF, the things he's saying, he feels.
I think he does too.
Right?
Very interesting.
But, he goes to WWE and he becomes a multimillionaire.
Right.
Does he have that same anger That fire.
Listen, it's a performance, and if you're truly a professional, it doesn't matter whether you're being given, and I know you're going to have a hard time believing this, but it doesn't matter if you're being given $5 or $5 million. When you're a pro and you love what you do it. So I would tend to think that if he's as good as he seems to be, he'll just continue to do what he does so well and make more money.
Don't throw rocks at a man with a machine gun.
Don't throw rocks at a man. That's Roddy Piper.
That's Roddy Piper.
Is it better than that? Don't get ridiculous here. That's Roddy Piper talking.
All right, hard times, like Jay Will
Dusty
says.
Rhodes talking, but again, this is so unfair to
I hate you,
Jacob
Hulk
Freeman.
Hogan.
Oh, forget it, man. Macho Man, stop. Scott Hall, you know who I am. What you don't know is what I'm doing here. Fling. I mean, come on. What are we talking here? I still think it's a great effing promo. For its time period, it will be judged as one of the best. As far as this current scene that we've got, I think it'll be judged as one of the best from its generation, if not the best. Maxwell Jacob Freeman is a rare thing in this business. He's a rare thing because he can get cheers, he can get boos. He plays a villain, and he's getting the reaction from everybody. Every single person, when he comes in and he does his spiel and he does it perfectly, they all give him an emotional reaction. Winner. Winner.
So then I ask you this.
Get him, Vince.
Why don't you just put
Get him.
the AEW title
They
on
should.
MJF?
Maybe they're afraid of him.
Why are they afraid of him?
Because he'll do it and say whatever the he wants. Maybe they're afraid of him. Did you ever think about that?
It's not marketable.
I think he's very unmarketable.
Is the Miz
He'll
marketable?
sell a lot of shirts, though.
Is
They'll-
the Miz
they'll buy
mar-
his
is the
shirts
Miz
anyway.
marketable?
Yeah, the Miz is more family, friendly.
There's my point. So maybe,
But I'd rather have MJF.
but
Sorry.
maybe, yeah, you would.
Still would rather have him.
Do you think Nick Khan wants MJF? I really got to be honest with you. As much as I like to see, like I was thinking to myself, if I was writing for the WWE,
Right.
I would bring back that Piper's Pit format. Forget doing it in the ring.
Right.
Do something on a stage and do that Piper Pit format with MJF.
Wow.
Okay, but that's
Wow.
me. Okay, but
I love that. He's the guy that you strangle on the golf course with scarf included. You strangle him. You get in an argument with that guy every day when you're at the golf course. Like, that's my fucking hole. Get the fuck out of here. There he is right there. Maxwell Jacob Freeman. And then he insults you and your family with a straight face. And you just want to murder him. He's got that face. That face is like someone kicked me.